Good afternoon and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, geeks, nerds, and ambassadors everywhere, and welcome to Council of the Ones Babylon 5 review. And of course, as always, I am your host, the Ambassador, and with me today, I've got my good friend, fellow council member. He has always been here, same as me, Mountains of Elysium. And today we are going to be doing a breakdown of the episode Walkabout. And I want to welcome everyone that is in the chat or will be coming in. Good to see you all. And Louis X Sparrow, good evening. Good to see you as always. So, Elysium, today we are potentially a council of two. So, the one who was and the one who is. We're missing the one who will be. Because our good friend and fellow council member Fiona Wolf, she had to work today, sadly, but she left us lots of helpful, handy notes, and we're hoping that council member Kosh will be here before too long. But of course, he's getting off work right now. But all the same, it is always a pleasure to see everyone. And Elysium, it's always a pleasure to have you at by my side in the circle.
Thank you.
So, that all being said, we don't stand on a whole lot of ceremony here, unlike the Minbari Great Council, where they do a bunch of ceremony and flourish and all sorts of things. We just jump right in. So, Elysium, my friend, if you're ready, I know I'm ready. Let's do it. Episode
Ready to go.
Season 3, Walkabout. Oh, and here is Council Member Kosh. Kosh, good to see you, bud.
Glad to be here, brothers. How we doing?
Doing okay. We literally just got started, so you are right on time. And can I just say to my fellow council members, zooty zoot zoot.
Yes.
Zoot
Zoot zoot. Zoot zoot.
Okay. All right. Well, Walkabout. This is kind of a slower pace episode. It's more of a Franklin-centric episode, and it's got a lot of interesting stuff, as I put in the description. So we've got all sorts of fun stuff to talk about. So, gentlemen, I have done my thing. Let's open up the discussion. Where do we want to begin?
I was just thinking, last week we had Zatra saying, he'd 12 or was it 10 brothers and going, but one dead. But now we have Ulkesh saying we're all Kosh. My God, how do they keep track of Kosh when everyone's called Kosh? Sorry, just had to ring it up.
No.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good thought, because I struggled with that thought too for a while, because when they're saying we're all Kosh, I'm thinking maybe we can't look at it in a human literal translation, because they materialize in this energy and they could bounce into other forms. So I'm wondering, is that a phrase that when someone's gone, they all share part of that energy, or is it a saying, or is that them saying we're all one? Because they do have Vorlons with different names.
Well, I have my screen black. Okay. Guys, can you hear me okay? All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I actually have a theory about this. It may not be complete. It may not be accurate. It may not even be close to the truth, but I have a theory. We know that Vorlons are beings of energy. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much know this. This is established fact. So what if, in a Borgish sort of way, they share a collective conscience or consciousness? So while they may have their own private consciousness, they share a group conscience, and that's where Ulkesh's statement comes into play. I am Ulkesh, but we are all Kosh, or whoever the particular Vorlon is, because granted, we only meet 2 Vorlons in the entire run of the series, Kosh and Ulkesh.
Mm-hmm.
At least am I coming through okay now?
Slight bit of breakup, but that could be on my end because I had problems earlier today with my internet.
I don't hear a problem from either of you.
Okay,
so
that's fine.
It's at my end.
Okay, no, that's all right. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm coming through clear for you fellas and for the chat. So, but that's
wait,
just
you do break up a little bit. It's very, very slight. It's hardly noticeable.
Okay, I'll try and talk slowly, so hopefully it will be minimized. The other thing is my computer is going through a update or whatever, so that might be part of the signal breakup right there too. But yeah, that's kind of my theory, where they share the Vorlons share a group consciousness. So
yeah,
they all have their own separate individual personality. So they are dissimilar from the Borg in that aspect, but they all share a group consciousness, which is very similar to the Borg.
maybe like the founders in DS9, that they become part of the link and then break apart individual.
Yeah, that's not a bad parallel, Elysium. I wonder if that's something that the producers of DS9 copied from Michael J. Straczynski.
I wonder where they could have gotten that. I wish you could do emoji, kind of chin scratching emoji right about now.
I'm doing it right now with my beard. But here's because the thing is, the Vorlons created the telepaths and have like advanced technology. Like their planet is, pretty much like the Death Star.
That's the theory. That's the theory.
Exactly. And I like that it is a theory because no one should know. And also the fact that they have like advanced technologies with living tissue and stuff, everything that we've seen little bits of. And if they created telepaths, they would only create such a being that has a part of their telekinetic or telepathic abilities.
There you go.
So yeah, like both. So I think they would not create someone with all their abilities or a set of people. They would give them one part. So I'm thinking there are parts of them that's telepathic, astral projection, telekinetic. They have like all kinds of forms of using energy within them. So I wouldn't be surprised if parts of like there could be Kosh could probably split his energy in two, where part of him he could be chilling over here and another part of him is in his suit. Just like how he left enough of him in Sheridan to be aware with Sheridan later on. So I'm thinking that when they say Kosh, it could be a different type of meaning as to how they share each other's consciousness and interactions.
Yes. And here's
that we don't understand yet.
That's true. And here's another interesting little tidbit. Think about it. The episode of this nice word, nice lady. The title of this episode is Walkabout. Well, yes, it is a reference to Franklin's journey. It's also kind of a callback to what Kosh would do with Lady Alexander from time to time, where he would split off a portion of his consciousness, place it inside of her, and go on Walkabout. And now there's a piece of Kosh in Sheridan, and we get a clue as to the fact that there is a piece of Kosh inside of Sheridan, because you hear his voice when Lita and Sheridan are talking to one another, particularly when she first comes back to the station. So my theory, or our theory, does hold some validity. The fact that Sheridan is holding a piece of Kosh inside of himself. He just doesn't know that he's holding a piece of Kosh inside himself until Lorianne, at the beginning of season 4, tells him so. So, okay, and I'll bring up Elysium's comment here. Garibaldi said he went over to Kosh's quarters with a fine-tooth comb. Did he miss the image? Watch the scene the first time the new Vorlon looks at the wall, he sees nothing. The next time he looks at it, the lens opens wide. The image is somehow distorted around the edges, and now he sees the afterflash. Only certain types can see it. Yeah, he sees the outline
of the image, and I never got it until this time that he could see Morden and two shadows standing. So it was like that nuclear. They say when a nuclear flash, your shadow is burnt into the ground.
Yes.
The image of the shadows were burnt onto the wall with Morden.
Yeah, because if you remember, there was a brilliant flash of energy or light and everything when Kosh is killed, and that could have burnt those images onto the wall. And I just want to send a quick hello to Superior Hero Reviews. Cody, is good to see you as always. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for tuning in this afternoon. Always a pleasure to have you in the chat. But yeah, this, like I said, this episode is very much focused around Franklin and him getting his life back in order and him going on Walkabout. But it also is it is somewhat of a callback to what Kosh would do with Lady Alexander from time to time, when he would break off a piece of himself, and what, of course, Yulkesh would do with her, only wasn't as pleasant. Whereas Kosh was somewhat more kind about it. Yulkesh is a piece of work. Let's just put it that way.
I think Kosh was more like the ideal Vorlon. He began to do what Lorianne wanted him to do, and that was be a shepherd for the younger races. He'd started to care, where you could see Ulkesh felt like one of the Vorlons had died for the first time in a long time, and they really valued their own lives, but did not value the lives of those who were supposed to take care of.
Yeah, unfortunately, which is very sad, because honestly, with as much power that the Vorlons have at their disposal, you would think they would be, and I know this might be a little bit on the nose or on the chin, you would think they would be a little more responsible. If I'm hoping anyone gets that reference, I'm sure Koj probably does. I imagine Superior Hero gets it. With great power comes great responsibility.
Uncle Ben.
Although, granted, Uncle Ben, except for the 2000 movie, never actually says that in the comics. It's referenced, but he never actually says it. So, but that's a minor nitpick for another time. Yeah. I will say I always liked the design of Yulkesh's suit. I did like the design of Kosh's suit, obviously, very much so. But you can tell that I know this is something we brought up before, but it almost seems like there's a differentiation between different types of Vorlons, where Kosh was more of a his suit didn't have the sharp angles to it. It didn't seem quite as aggressive as Yulkesh's. It's almost like there was a differentiation between the different roles that different Vorlons would have in their society. And Yulkesh's seemed much more aggressive, much more confrontational, almost like he was like a member of the Vorlon warrior caste. Even though Kosh, as we saw in interludes and intermissions, I think that's right.
That is it.
Okay. He can throw down just as well. So, and a face I have not seen in the chat ever, but a face familiar, DJ Odyssey. Deej, good to see you, man. And thank you for being here. Let's see. No one ever listens to Zathras. Quite mad, they say. It's good that Zathras does not mind. Has even grown to like it. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's from More Without End, Deej. You're about a week behind, bud, but Deej is really, it's good to see you in the chat, and hope you're doing well, bud. Appreciate you being here. So,
Madness enjoys company, Deej.
Yes. Let's see. I'll bring up Elysium's comment here.
That's from the Lurker's Guide.
Yeah. There is significance in the different eyepiece colors of the two Koshes. Why would no one suspect Kosh certainly having a different encounter suit? No significance to the eyepiece color. No reason to assume Vorlons only have one encounter suit their entire life. Actually, the new Vorlon's encounter suit is more purple-red than green. The design is a matter of form following function. Yes, I would say that is very accurate, Elysium.
And that goes along with what you were saying, that Ulkesh is a bit more militant. so he would have more militant form in his encounter suit.
Also, because their technology is bioorganic too. Because I'm thinking this could also be a combination of like a class system or even ethnicity of the Vorlons. Just like how Narns have either spots or tiny spots or even like tiger stripes, or some Minbari, they have more of a softer type of bone piece, or they have a more sharper one like a triceratops kind of thing. Like little things like that I was thinking is kind of like ethnicity, because they do that with the rest of them.
I think with Membari, they actually do that. They all grow the same bone, but they mold the bones. They cut the bones themselves to suit their status.
Yes.
Well, there you go. More cultural differences. That's still part of it. So that could be it.
That's a possibility too. But that all being said, we can kind of spin this into, or we can transition into the whole situation with Sheridan's plan, because I think that is good, kind of a good segue, a good transition, because we were talking about Lead Alexander. So why don't we go into Sheridan's plan to see if they can take down a shadow vessel with a telepath? So unless you gentlemen want to go into a different topic, and that's fine too.
I think that was before we get. Well, additionally to that, I found it very interesting because I'm like super Team Jakar, right? With Nicole.
Who isn't?
I know, right? With Nicole being hesitant after everything, and then having Garibaldi come to Jakar with the Book of Jaquan, and then they had that little discussion together, and that was the last you saw of that for this episode. I think was a very interesting placement for this episode, those two scenes, to help what would come later on. But I felt it was interesting that there was no third scene to follow up afterwards.
Sorry,
like Jakar talking to Nicole or something.
For
this episode.
Sorry for jumping in. I was thinking, as you brought up the Book of Jaquan, it's interesting that religion plays a big part in this with Franklin and Foundationism. And here, with Garibaldi using religion to get Jakar to acting, in my book, and in your religious book, by your own beliefs, you're basically a coward.
Right.
And I like the way they used it. He used Jakar's religious beliefs against him from his own book.
Because he is being hypocritical at this point.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Jakar is the last member of the Kari not in captivity or killed. He's the top head. He's the big poobah. And he's like, well, Warlier Nicole doesn't want to do it. Warlier Nicole doesn't want to do it. And Garibaldi's, I wish Garibaldi would have made, well, aren't you the last of the Kari still free? Don't you pull rank on him? Because I think the Kari has higher standing or authority than a war leader. Just saying. So I would have been like, Nicole, you're going to take your ship and wherever else ships we can pull together, and we're going to go help Sheridan because it's the right thing to do. And the one thing I love about Garibaldi's his rant or his dressing down of Jakar is it's real easy to stick your neck out when you got a whole bunch of ships, but it's the crunch comes in when you're almost down to nothing. And when your superior officer says you're going to go do this, and you may not like it, but you're going to do it because your superior officer says your life, in the grand scheme of things, and this may seem cold, please do not misunderstand me, but your life is not as important as the mission. And in this instance, they needed solid intel, and Sheridan needed every ship that they could get. And it took Garibaldi lighting a fire underneath Jakar's ass to get the ships they needed. And I will bring up something that Fiona put in the private chat on Twitter. Let's see. I gotta scroll down to it, but I will find it. Give me just a second. Let's see. Okay, here we go. In fact, the Narn cruiser will help tip the balance of testing telepaths out on shadow ships. Jakar has a lot more pull than most realize, because he galvanizes the league to help Sheridan's wife star out in the end. Garibaldi does get angry, though, because the cruiser's captain was prioritizing asset survival over protecting allies, and I haven't even gotten to Franklin yet. And of course, she mentions they killed him, they tore him apart, and burned, you bastard.
Oh,
And then, of course, when she says that, and you hear the voiceover of our late friend Kosh say, and so it begins. And Lita hears it, and she knows now that Kosh, a piece of Kosh, is still alive. And that gets the attention of Yulkash when she mentions it to him. And to the chat, LDG, good to see you, man, and always a pleasure to have you here. Because, well, you, like Ambassador Kosh, have always been here supporting me, and I greatly appreciate it. So,
just saying that I do have to you have to look with the Narns with sympathy. They've lost everything, and that ship is basically what they have left, and they don't know if that's all they'll have to face, the Centauri, at all. So
that's also the surviving ship from all that. Yeah,
pretty much. I know they're building a fleet, but still, it's not much, and you can have sympathy for them, knowing that that's all they may have.
Very true, and I wholeheartedly agree, because I do understand where Warlier Nakal is coming from. I can understand his reasoning, but at the same time, they need to know if a telepath can block a shadow vessel. And now we know not just Lita, but Minbari telepaths can block shadow vessels as well, because we do see that those 3 on board the Minbari cruiser are able to do it. And there's also something that Fiona brought up in the private chat, or in our group chat on Twitter. Shadows like easy wins. They like a battle they know they can win, kind of like the Minbari warrior cast. Just saying.
I was actually about to say that. It's really
So that comes with any group that's really obsessed with aggression, winning.
They like an easy win, and when they see that they see those League ships coming in, you see Brakiri, you see Drazi. I think you see a couple of what are those saucer shaped ships? Whose species is that? Is that the game maybe, or the Pakmara? The saucer the saucer based ships.
I thought that was the one with the fish fin.
The Vree have a spinning circular ship.
That's it. Yeah, it's the Vree. Okay. I remember seeing a Brakiri cruiser, and I saw a couple of Drazi Sunhawks, but I thought I saw a couple of saucer based as well. But when they see that they're outnumbered, they scram. Those other shadow vessels run.
And it's in a funny way. It's Jakar's failure at the beginning, Garibaldi letting a fire under his arse, that got this, because had the Narn cruiser gone at first, it would have just been the Narn cruiser. But because I think Jakar was shamed, he doubled up and got the League to work together.
Yes.
And that really won the day.
Yeah, it did. Well, it proves Garibaldi's point that he mentioned at the beginning. I think it's season 2 or season 3, when he's looking through Sheridan's private files. Sheridan's ability to take a smaller inferior force and turn it into a very effective combat unit. Here you go. And we'll, of course, see that in a bigger scale in Shadow Dance, which is, I think, the second to last episode of the season.
Sheridan has now defeated a Minbari fleet and the Shadow fleet.
Yep.
Not bad.
I mean, they took a licking, but they win. But here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing we have to realize. Granted, we're looking at this from the outside in, obviously, but we know that this conflict is not going to be resolved by strength of arms. This is going to be resolved by ideological debate. But it's but it is through martial force that they're able to get the attention of the Shadows and the Vorlons. The younger races prove that while they may have as advanced technology, once they pull themselves together, they can whip ass. They can bust heads. And that's what gives them the opportunity in season 4 for Sheridan and Delenn to have their moment. To break down and debate the ideologies of the Vorlons and the Shadows.
Because that's the core of the problem, aside from all the physical threats. And usually that's the case of everything, really.
True. It all comes down to a differentiation of ideas. But unfortunately, you've got two groups that are vastly more powerful than everybody else, and the only way you can reason with them is not through martial strength or military strength, but you have to reason. You have to find a way to reason with them. Just like Lorianne helps Ivanova find the remaining first ones, so that once they hopefully are able to do what they do, all the first ones can go home. Or not go home, but can depart. Unfortunately, that's kind of a to the younger race's detriment because they still got to deal with the Drock. So, but that's a topic for another time. So, Dr. Franklin and his little dalliance with the singer. You guys want to dig into that some?
That was a nice. It's just a nice break because it's a good reminder that this show is very Lord of the Rings, but it's still also very Casablanca. It's about people in the city, and it's a good reminder that as much as very epic Star Trek and Star Wars elements that the show has. It's also, an inner city storytelling of noir, crime drama, cops, or like just people, trying to get along in their life, trying to figure themselves out in the city. And I always like episodes like this, even from like Believers and in season 1 with the respiratory case. That just brings more of the realness. And I like seeing how the bars, the clubs are, the daily life, because it gives you an idea of what a real life situation would be in the future of this, because it's connected to our history, so it's just kind of like nice seeing how he's trying to discover himself through the people he interacts by getting out of his line of work, so he can find that missing link, because he's looking for himself. And we get a sense of that when she brings up the glass, even though she's on her own path and journey, because she too is also kind of lost and at the end of her journey in a way, and she's made a way to find peace with what's happening to her. And that's his lesson by coming across someone who's in a way on her own walkabout. And when she puts the glass up to look at him, you see all these multiple reflections of him. It's almost like that's a foreshadowing of what he's looking for. He wants to find the real self version of him, because he's kind of split apart. He's got to make sense of it because he's kind of broken.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing they say here. A lot of people who live by their job die soon after, once they retire, because once they wake up that Monday morning and there's no more work, well, who am I? And Franklin realizes this. It's quite a terrifying thing when you live your life by, I have to do this, I'm doing this. And when you take the time to sit by yourself, it's like comes the Inquisitor. Who are you? Alone in the dark. It's his own version of this.
Yeah. And I'll bring
probably the torture is far worse. Yes.
This episode is the precursor to the final build of him confronting himself. The whole "I want to do it again" setup he will have later on. He always seems to meet women in desperate situations with Miss James. It's a chronic illness that's like killing her. He's more similar to Ivanova in the romantic department. Unfortunately, I don't think he ever gets married. Yeah. And considering Franklin's issues, he may feel like he's not really cut out to have somebody, just like Ivanova, which is unfortunate because they never really develop a romantic and counterpart for Franklin, but they obviously had one for Ivanova in the form of Marcus Cole, obviously. And the thing for me, and I kind of want to go a little bit of a jot down memory lane for me. Back about, well, it would be 10 years ago next week, I left my now ex-wife. I had lost my job. I left her. And everything that had made up who I was had been stripped away. I still had my faith. I still had my family and the friends that I had in my life before I met her. But I had to ask myself several questions. I am no longer a husband. I am no longer a stepfather. I am no longer a security officer for a company. So what in the world am I? And I kind of went on my own walkabout. Granted, I didn't actually go walking anywhere per se, but it was more of an emotional and mental walkabout. And over the next several months, I got back to who I was before I met my ex. And I came to realize I had actually lost myself. I had lost the person I had been before I met her because I had sacrificed so much of myself to be with her, to make her happy, rather than being myself and both of us potentially being happy. So I can understand to a degree what Franklin is doing, and I can actually agree with what he's doing. While we may not have the resources or the ability to do it in the exact same way he did, I can understand the principle. You strip everything else away that's distracting you, and you ask yourself one very important question. Who am I? And right now, that's what Franklin is trying to do. And I think the whole visual metaphor of her looking at him through that glass is very apropos, because it also plays off something that Delenn says to John. When you wake up every day, you put on many different masks for the different people you interact with. But when you're alone and you're asleep, that's when your real face appears. And that is also at work here in the situation with Franklin and the singer. So, okay, I'm going to step off my soapbox, and gentlemen, let's discuss your thoughts on this.
Well, I'll jump in because I've had a little history of trying to get into film and stuff, and I didn't end up where I hoped to be, and I ended up in debt and stuff, and I beat myself up pretty hard. I was wallowing for a good 3 years, and I refused to even. I didn't know where I was going or even who I was. A couple things woke me up to reality, which is great, but I remember there's that journey where you have to really look at yourself when you've lost what you think is everything that you had and wanted. Mm-hmm. And you need to kind of be productive in a way, like either get a new job or move around or go on a walkabout or something that allows you to look at who you really are again. Mm-hmm. And because the real question comes down to everything is who are you, pretty much. And then from there, once you figure that out, hopefully you can find the pieces to take you there.
Yeah, I can honestly agree with that, because what's the old song by Frank Sinatra? Made mistakes. I've made a few. Bitten off more than I can chew. or maybe it's Dean Martin. I can't remember, but it's one of those two, and it's true right here. We've all made our fair share of mistakes. We've all screwed up to one degree or another. Franklin's done the same thing. I mean, essentially everyone in this series has done the same thing. They've made mistakes. I mean, and Londo eventually is going to have to, well, as the old saying goes, pay the piper for his. And the piper is, of course, the Drock.
And in a way, that's why it's great. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, as the saying goes across the pond, in for a penny, in for a pound. So, go ahead, D. Go ahead, Koj, please.
Yeah. So it's just, that's right, too. And because I think a good way to help is to see and meet someone else who works as an example of where they're going through. Like, you see someone you meet someone who's a little closer to the end of what their journey is, while yours is beginning. I think maybe that's what she served for him. She's the first piece to seeing what really matters, because like I said, she held up the glass and we saw him in like kaleidoscope pieces. The last time we see Franklin in this episode, he's passing by a window where it has that kind of kaleidoscope effect on him. So it's like he's still in pieces. It's like he has begun and he's still in pieces, even though he's all collected and he was helping someone else out. It's a long journey, and once you start, you still have a long way to go. So I think this episode is really interesting in that, with the, putting all the pieces back together.
In some way, one of the most important things you can do is take that first step. It's like the Christian story of the prodigal son. It didn't matter that he hadn't made it all the way home. The father ran to meet him. It was the fact that he'd begun the journey to find himself again, to go back to who he truly was. That's what's important. And Franklin, the fact that he's looking, I heard, was it lore runners mentioned that Franklin seems to be doing much better than he should be. I think it's the fact that he's started on that journey. He hasn't begun to go into the withdrawals and the stims yet. And you can see he's happy. He's got, almost looks like he's together. He's going, no, I'm looking for myself. I'm finding myself. He's taking time to go and listen to that woman singing. And she's a really great singer.
She is.
I think I popped it in. I popped it in the private group chat earlier, that this was one of the episodes I thought, maybe I should skip. But my God, now that I watched it, there's so much in it. Even the singing part, I mentioned that if you think about it, it's the same in TKO, where they have Walker Smith and the MMA. You see his craft, what he's bringing, he wants to bring, to prove himself by fighting, by bringing honor. I'd have thought the warrior code, it's not the true warrior, uses violence as a tool, but it's not who he is. It's the brute that uses, like shadows, that use violence as their way. That's where the difference is between the warrior and the barbarian, shall we say.
Yes. Well, and she, the singer, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she makes a very interesting comment. And it's been something that's been echoed by other characters, both major and minor, throughout the first 3 seasons so far. People come to B5 or go out to the stars to seek a new life. And then they see that dream die right in front of them. And she's like, I come out here because I chose to. Because I want my last little bit of time to matter. I want my last little bit of time to be of impact for others around me. She's like, I don't want pity. I don't want your sympathy. Kaylin James, thank you, Elysium. Appreciate that. Erica Gimple. Okay, thank you, Elysium, very much. She's like, I want my last little bit of time to make a difference in other people's lives. And if I can do that for a little bit with my talents as a singer, then it will have been worth it. It's kind of like, and this is not me trying to plug a video that's going to be coming out in a couple of days. But something that I bring up, and the video that's going to come out on Sunday. I would much rather spend my time in the online space, bringing joy and having good conversation and good discussion, rather than getting wrapped up in a bunch of drama. And that's something that I learned from my father, because as most of you know, my father was ill for the last few years of his life, and he didn't want to look at it as, well, I'm sick, I can't do anything. I'd much rather he wanted to spend his time, whatever much he had, enjoying life and enjoying time with me and his wife, my mother, and with his friends and everyone else around him. And he did that. He said, as Doc Holliday said to Wyatt Earp at the end of Tombstone, live up to the last little bit. Live life up to the hilt. Live, Wyatt. Live for me. And that's what Kaylin James is doing. She is living life up to the very last bit. She's not gonna let her condition slow her down if she can help it. And she is going to bring joy into other people's lives. And I think that is, if you are able to do that with your life, aside from your responsibilities as a spouse or a parent or whatever the case may be, whether it's major or minor, if you bring just a little bit of joy into other people's lives, then your life will have had a greater meaning and a greater impact than you may possibly realize. And that's true for Kaylin James, just as it was for my father.
And honestly, for my father, he, in some ways, he was like Franklin. Before he got ill, he was all about work. He never took time, any day off. He was working, he was doing something, he was just about doing the work. Then he got sick, and suddenly he started living. He started, doing Photoshop, learning how to use Photoshop. He went on holidays that he'd never gone on. He did things, and he really lived the last 6 years of his life, where the first 54, he was just about work. And that made me, once after I went through all this stuff made me realize, like Franklin's journey, I have to discover who I am, so that if something is taken away, I still know who I am and can still find myself and find a way. Because if you're lost, you don't know who you are, no matter where you are, with all the surroundings, every money, you'll never be happy.
Yeah. Because I know it may sound very cliche and very trite, but you can have all the creature luxuries in the world. You can have all the cash that you want in the world. But if you don't know who you are, or what the purpose of your life is, or bringing joy to others, then it's all empty. It's all hollow. It's all essentially meaningless.
And I think that's true.
I mean, would I mind having, say, $100,000 so I can pay off my bills, my wife's bills, my in-laws' bills, and my mother's bills? Yeah, sure, of course I would. But I will say, aside from that one little thing, I am happy. I cannot complain.
Oh, for sharing these stories, I think you're right, because my father, he was kind of the opposite. He was very smart, though. He was fluent in 7 European languages. In fact, he taught languages at universities and stuff. But however, he was not a good guy. He had a lot of prejudices. He was very angry. He was responsible for domestic violence. So we had to leave and get away from him after my mom got custody of all the kids. Long story. He purposely drank himself to death. He made himself sick and gave up on everything, and he died. So it's proves the same point, and I wonder how lost he was.
Yeah.
And he was he could live good on his own. Made a lot of money at university and everything, being a teacher of that caliber. It's just that being lost, no wealth or status can guarantee being lost or losing your way.
All the wealth in the world cannot replace an empty, broken heart.
It's
I think it's essentially the thing. So
it's I think even Babylon 5 will address something like this in season 5 with Lockley's father, where he had pretty much done similar, and when they went through, they discovered he'd wanted to paint. He lost who he was, and he lashed out because of that. And all his success, all of who he was, didn't matter because he lost the core of who he was. And I'm sorry. Now, while my father was lucky, he was about his work. I'm sorry he didn't discover himself much sooner, because it would have made a difference in my life. Because I'd have seen a father who was taking charge, knew who he was, and that will inspire you to be who you are.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, and the relationship that Franklin has with his father is a military man, a general, a man of authority and respect and all those things. And it's kind of unfortunate that Franklin didn't feel like he could reach out to his father. I mean, we know that, at least from the last episode that we saw in Gropos, Ground Pounders, that they did part, that the last time they spoke was on amiable terms. They were respectful to one another. They were getting along, at least as far as we can tell. But it's a shame that Franklin didn't feel like he could reach out to his father and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm going through something here. Can you help me?" And I have a feeling maybe his father would have been like, "Maybe you should come home for a while, spend some time with your mother and your sister." Because doesn't Franklin have a sister? I'm trying to remember.
He has 3 sisters.
So.
Three sisters. Okay. Yeah. Yes, 3 sisters.
3? So. Oh, I thought it was like 2. Wow.
I can't remember, honestly. And to the chat, Bureau 31, Bureau, good to see you. And I do want, to everyone that's been in the chat, I do want to kind of apologize for us switching back to our old time, but I'm going down to see Mother Ambassador this afternoon, and I didn't want to possibly miss this, so we talked with the council and we rescheduled for this week. Now, next week, we will be back at our 5:30 p.m. Central Time time. Sorry. But for this week, at least, or anything, we decided to switch back so that we could accommodate that particular thing. And I do appreciate everybody that tuned in today, and I do appreciate Elysium and Koj being flexible enough. And Louis X Sparrow, yeah, this is a good time. I wish I could do it more, but with my new work schedule, I'm normally at work. This is a rare Friday I actually have off. It could be that maybe we will make the schedule a little more flexible, or we may just keep it to where it's 5:30. Because I know for Elysium and for Louis X and some of you other, they're across the pond or around the bend or wherever the case may be. I know that this can be a little bit later for you all, but I appreciate you all tuning in. It really means a lot that you all make this stream a priority and everything. And I just want to say I appreciate the support, and I'm glad that you all are enjoying these streams. So, but yeah, as Elysium says, this means I have to behave longer next week. Oh Lord, Elysium, you're a mess.
I know,
but you're our mess. You're our mess, and we love you.
Yes. I was just as a quick aside on it was in the Lurker's Guide. There was a broadcast problem that they misspelled Patricia Talman's name in the credits.
Patrice.
Oh, what?
And JMS thought he'd fixed it, and he found out during an interview. And his response was, "What? Are you sure? We changed that in the copies here." someone's going to die.
That's funny.
I've popped it in the private chat there, what he actually said. I don't know who he was talking to, but it was put in the Lurkers Guide.
So, oh my goodness, that's funny as all get out. Well, fellas, we are coming up on the hour mark. Is there any final thoughts you want to give on this episode? Anything we haven't touched upon, or are we all in a good place mentally, ecumenically? Yeah, Koj.
There's just the whole suspense of figuring out how to defeat a shadow ship was exciting. That was, and I could see why they didn't show me that scene of Jakar talking to Nakal, because it was like a surprise of seeing the troops come up as backup with Jakar in his ship or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. But Lita having a heart-to-heart with Sheridan, because poor Lita has like no one. I think the only like Qui-Gon like mentor she had, or anybody who was like an uncle or family member, was Kosh. And one of my best friends, he was like a brother to me. There was a time when he came back from New York and we were going to hang out as soon as possible, but I forgot what I was doing. I was like out and about and we were going to hang out soon, but I couldn't. So I was like, all right, let's reschedule. And then I found the next day that he was killed that night. And I was like, dang, it's a long story. I'm working on it. I'm a lot better now. But the fact of I wasn't there with them, or could have been there, or we could have seen each other, and then all of a sudden they're just gone. I really, really feel for Lita, and that moment that she was not there, and then she was able to get a glimpse of somehow who was there. And I got a feeling that Kosh inside Sheridan reached out to Lita and showed Lita who did it, so that Lita could do something to help the battle and fight back the shadows. I feel that was a little bit of Kosh communicating to Lita.
I think you're right. Yeah, because honestly, her response was so visceral and so pronounced.
It's so clear. She
burn, you bastard. You took away the one person I cared about, and I am going to make you bleed for it. And well, she did. And I will say, for the low budget that they did, the close up on her eyes and then just the little touch of blood coming out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, "Whatever you're gonna do it now."
I was so angry at Sheridan. I felt like he took forever. He's like, "And now," I was
like, "Hey, come on, just a little, just shoot the
like,
damn ship. Come on, kill the mothers. The lady told you to kill them. Kill them. Don't."
Kind of describing how my wife, when I'm trying to hang a picture or something, I measure, and she's going, "Will you just hit the effing hammer?"
What you mean, hit the effing nail?
Yeah, hit the effing nail. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, she's like, "Would you just effing do it? Just stop measuring and do it." And I'm like, "Okay, that's Sheridan." Now I'm kind of going, "Yeah, I see what she means."
Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But yeah, Koji, I think you're right. I think the piece of Kosh that's inside Sheridan was telling her, "Hey, they did this."
Yeah, because Vorlons don't really talk to you. They just tell you a riddle or one cold hard truth that you need to hear. Or and I think he spoke to her in a riddle so she could get closure.
Well, a measure of closure, because the real closure
in her way,
yeah, when the shadows go away. And yeah, you're right, because now that the once Yulkesh is gone,
I don't think Kosh wanted to die. He fought back. There were signs of that he fought back, so
maybe a little bit, yeah. I mean, okay, let's be honest here. Who here would love to see Kosh? Okay, pure hypothetical. Who would have loved to have seen Sheridan and Kosh go into White Star to Zaha Doom and just mop the floor with those jerkwaters? And then, okay, here's a really cool fan fiction. What if Kosh and Lorien actually had met? How cool would that have been? And Sheridan's like, "Hey guys, I'm here too." And they're like, "Oh, sorry, John, we forgot you were there." But they're very polite. they're very polite about it. They're not like trying to be a jerk about it. But yeah, Kosh goes into his energy form and he's like, no, I ain't going out with these mother. Okay, Kosh is Samuel L. Jackson. I have tatted with these mother effing shadows on this mother effing Zaha Doom. And he just busts out of his suit and just starts tearing up the joint. And Sheridan's got a PPG rifle, a PPG, and he's like, hell yeah.
I more had an idea of him as John McClane doing Yippee-ki-yay, mofos.
Yes.
We just turned this in Babylon 5 Total Recall.
Oh man, that would have been.
So I have a funny.
Okay, go ahead, Elysium.
I was saying the way that the Shadows and Vorlons behaved in Into the Fire, where they became like children with Lorien. I think Sheridan and Lorien would have been more like chatting, and Kosh would be, "Hey, notice me, notice me, notice me, notice me." He'd have gone back, reverted back to a child.
Maybe. Okay. All right. Here's my promo. He's an Earth Force captain who's been pushed too far. He is a Vorlon who's lived millions of years, has zero F's to give about anyone but his buddy John. They are Sheridan and Kosh, Shadowbusters.
Shadowbusters. They're gonna shine a light in all the dark places.
Oh my gosh, that is so 90s. That is so freaking 90s.
It is.
Dude.
It's a total Lethal Weapon promo, man.
Oh man, dude, that was hilarious. So. And Geeks Fandom Unleashed, CJ, good to see you, bud, and thank you for popping in. We're actually getting ready to wrap up, but glad you could be here. And by all means, go back and catch the replay. And CJ, I want to let you know that I am working on getting you unrestricted and unblocked on YouTube. It's been a long time since I've had to do it for anybody because I have blocked so few people. You're one of the few I ever actually did. So I want to let you know I am working on that, so you can use your main channel for your interaction and everything. But good to see you in the chat one way or the other and everything. And it's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, but yeah, guys, great review, great stream as always, and all these, as I said a few weeks ago, it's always a blast to have you. It's a blast to get together with you guys and discuss this thing we love called Babylon 5. So,
thank you guys. I love this. This is like the best in the world. Babylon 5 is my geek mecca. It's like I love it more than Star Wars and everything else, man. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Always. So
one quick thing: everyone has Swedish meatballs. Just that every culture. Just before we
yes, every culture has this form of Swedish meatballs.
It's true. Even in Sri Lanka, we have these little rolled up meatball patty kind of things. It's true.
It's one of those great mysteries of the universe where if you understood why it would probably drive you mad. So, but that all being said, folks, I hope you all who tuned in live and those of you that'll catch us on the replay enjoyed the stream. And of course, leave your comments down below with anything that we happen to bring up during this stream. And I do want to make you all aware that Elysium has dropped the links to all the council members' stream or channels in the chat. So if you have not subscribed to Mountains of Elysium, Lord Koj, Fiona Wolf, Classic Comics, or Zod Rider, do so. Do so. They are worth your time. They do good content on their channels. And of course, we will be back next week, probably at our normal time of 5:30 Central Time with another installment of the Council of Ones. And I do want to let you all know, just a little bit of a reminder, I will be going live tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. with another Ambassador's Saturday Night Geekasm review. We'll be doing a breakdown of episode 5 of Bad Batch, and then we're going to do a little retro review of a couple of 90s favorites of mine, Men in Black and Zoolander. So, and I will be doing.
I love Zoolander so much.
Well, I'm going to be doing what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. The link will be in the chat. You pop into the chat. You tune in. You want to be a part of the panel. You click that little link and you come on and join me. So, because I've gotten real good response from that, and it's like I said, it's easier than sending out links to everybody.
Yo, Men in Black is one of the best comic book movies. It's underrated.
It is. Well, and I never saw MI Men in Black 3, but I saw the first two. I've been meaning to see the third one.
Yeah, I haven't seen the third one either.
Now, I didn't see MIB International because I heard it was kind of a stinker, but
oh wait, was that the third one when they did time travel?
No, the third one's when they did time travel. I'm talking about Men in Black International with.
Okay, so I'm behind. With, yeah, okay, that's the one.
The one with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. That's the one that everybody said was kind of a stinker. So no, Men in Black 3 everybody liked. So anyway, but that all being said, you all have a great night or afternoon wherever you are at. And until next time, this is the Council of One saying, Zooty Zooty.
Zoot
Zoot.
Zoot.
Got a zoot son.
Throw back a bottle of beer. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.